Okay.
Great. So if obviously this is the login information, and if you are here, then you obviously have the right information. So a little bit of Zoom etiquette. Please be civil and be polite. We're going to do the same. If you have any questions at all, you'll see at the bottom of your screen is a chat button, and we've circled it in red here. You can pose the question in the chat function. So simple, easy questions we'll answer as we go through the presentation. Some questions we'll answer on the fly if it's the subject we're talking about. And in other cases, if you pose a question and we don't answer it, don't fret. That means that we looked at the question and we know we're going to address that subject a little further in the presentation. So we're holding your question for that point. At the very end, when we get into the final Q&A, we'll then go back through the thread of our chat to make sure that we've answered everybody's questions and we've answered them to your satisfaction. Great. So here's what we're going to cover tonight. We'll give you some team introductions so you'll know who you're going to be hearing from. We're going to talk about the location, and that includes zoning, buffers, local permitting, compliance, regulations, that sort of thing. We'll tell you the type of marijuana establishment we're looking to put at that location and discuss the property structure. We'll get into security. We'll talk about how we're going to prevent diversion, make certain that this business does not constitute a nuisance to the community. We'll talk to you about our positive impact plan. That's something the state requires us to create and implement. We'll talk about the host community agreement process. And finally, we'll give you a sense of the licensing process and the anticipated timeline. So team introductions, I'm going to hand it over to Kaylee, or do you want me to tackle this one?
I'll hand it over to either you or Rob. That's Rob. Do you want to introduce Tony? Unless Tony's here.
I guess.
Well, we think Tony's here, so let me do a quick introduction, not only for myself but also for Tony. So very briefly, I'm Rob Wolf. I head a group called New England Agricultural Technologies that actually owns this land site at the Industrial Park, Randall Pond Industrial Park in Orange. It's ideally suited for this type of operation because of its industrial park nature, its isolation from basically the neighbors, residential neighborhoods, et cetera. And so it's appropriate for this. Tony Alves is one of several brothers that own a company called Lighthouse Masonry in New Bedford. Tony is one of the region's most experienced large-scale construction experts. He and his company and his brothers do large-scale constructions from bridge work for the state and governments to libraries, schools, institutional buildings, very large structures. And they have a great deal of experience in the construction field for that end. And they are our partners, in fact, with our land sites that we're developing around Massachusetts for cannabis cultivation. Most of our sites are for greenhouses, but this particular site is well suited for what is called an outdoor growing facility. And so Tony's put together a team that will be helping him put together a growing facility on this piece of property, effectively as our tenant, and will be the agricultural expert that's going to be growing cannabis for a summer duration, because obviously you can't grow product during the summer, during the winter. It's like any other crop, but Tony's going to be spearheading his organization to be a grower during the summer season. And this is the site that he's going to put it on. And Lighthouse obviously has, if you look at their website and look at their background, you could do a little bit of Google search on them. They are a highly credible organization with great depth of personnel and skills. And we're really, really happy to have them as part of our team.
I'm David Rabinovich. I serve as the moderator. I'm very active in the Massachusetts the business side of cannabis. Leo Falgout is our security advisor. He's with Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. They do a lot of work with many operators in the state, very, very well respected firm, and they do a good job designing security plans.
This is the team of people that Tony and our company have put together in terms of the development of our sites. New England Agricultural Technologies is the company that owns this particular land site. It was purchased from the Orange Economic Development Council back in the fall of 2019. It is a 4.5 acre piece of property, and we own the property to develop it as a cannabis site. The other participants on this page are experts in their particular field. TJA Energy is in the renewable energy space. That's of particular interest here because on this particular site, we're going to put in a small solar generating facility that is going to be the principal power source. We're going to be a completely renewable energy agricultural facility. And we expect to actually be acclaimed for that to some extent because it's a really novel approach, but it's one that is highly sought after by both the state regulators as well as the industry. And so TJA is critical to be part of that. Bowler Engineering is our site planners that do the survey work for the site and the design work on the land. 2WR and Partners are the architectural team that we use for our greenhouses, but they will be participating at this site for renderings and for diagram and drawings. Sapphire Security, as David mentioned, is a highly respected security service firm. Their expertise ranges from security work in pawn shops, for example, jewelry stores, really high value with high risk endeavors. And they have a deep experience in the cannabis space. And then Arch Solar is a greenhouse designer that we're using for our cultivation sites elsewhere, but they are one of the leading experts in greenhouses and agricultural activity.
So our location for this outdoor grow is Lot 4 in the Randall Pond Industrial Park. The parcel number is 129-6, so you can type that into the GIS website to get an idea of exactly where it is. This is what you'll see on GIS. You come down Quabbin Boulevard to the cul-de-sac, and we are straight across where this little blue dot. This is a picture of what the site looks like now. And here's another photo that's going to show you part of our odor prevention plan, which is the forest on either side of the site. And there's no abutters to the back, and the abutters to either side are actually other cannabis operators. Talk a little bit about the zoning compliance, buffers, and local permitting in orange. So the parcel that the outdoor grow will sit on is 4.5 acres. It's zoned residential commercial and it's zone B. The buffer zone that we have to worry about with the CCC is 500 feet from the nearest school entrance, which is measured in a straight line from the geometric center of the facility to the geometric center of the nearest school entrance. And the town of Orange has not decided to change or add anything to that buffer zone. We've notified all the abutters within 300 feet of this proposed development. The town also has not adopted any marijuana specific zoning requirements. So we're looking for an agricultural use, and we're going to be going in front of the planning board for a special permit and site plan review. CanGrow is applying for a tier 9 cannabis cultivation license, which is up to 80,000 square feet of canopy. It'll start out this year with an outdoor cultivation with a simple greenhouse, and there may be a future expansion to include a larger 25,000 square foot greenhouse. In both phases, there'll be no retail, no direct consumer sales, and no on-site consumption. So the facility will be quiet and discreet. We've chosen to work with outdoor cultivation for several reasons, one being that it's environmentally friendly and it's a very efficient way to grow. So the growth is powered by the sun, not electricity. We have much lower power demand than any other cultivation method. The simple greenhouses will accommodate the immature plants before we put them outside. We won't be building any roads. There's very limited access, no major excavation. Our water use, there's town water for most of our water use, but we also will use rainwater and we'll supplement that with our irrigation system. And we have limited ground disturbance. The site, as you saw in that photo, is already cleared, and the plants are going to be grown in mesh or fabric bags, reusable bags. We'll use complementary plantings for pest control. And I'll talk a little bit about our security system. Let's see. Like we talked about, it's been developed by Sapphire Risk Advisory Group. They work, Rob had said they work in robbery prevention for cannabis, pawn, jewelry shops, different high dollar retail locations. They work with any ag tech on several projects, and they also have a really good relationship with 2WR, the architectural firm. They've worked in 31 states. They've written 350, more than 350 cannabis security plans, and they've done more than 60 build outs. And they're working on other outdoor grows in the state right now. So their emphasis is on proactive security measures. So they'd rather prevent the crime than work on it afterwards. So everyone enters through the same gate. They have a video monitoring to remind everyone that there's security in place. So there's signs saying you're on camera. They have blanket camera coverage to get every aspect of the facility. They have access regulation with security key cards, identification checks, and keys. They use a variety of different alarm types, and they have communication systems that include hold up and intercom alarms. And the lighting is motion only. So they use low light and infrared capabilities of the cameras so that they only turn on the lights if they need to for motion. Some of the highlights of the plan are the perimeter security fence that has commercial non-residential locks. The security alarm system, which is continuously monitored and provides alerts. Video cameras at all points of entry and exits and in parking areas, so they cover the whole facility. Those recordings are 24-hour and they're available for immediate viewing. And they remain operational during a power outage. They also help us with our emergency response procedures and training for the employees. And they have a secure waste disposal plan in place for us. This is an example of the security system that's designed for a much larger greenhouse. I put it in this presentation because one CanGrow may use a larger greenhouse in the future. And it also shows you the detail that Sapphire puts into their security plans. So all of these little icons are showing either a door buzzer or a camera or an alarm or the lighting system. So it shows you how detailed and fully covered these facilities are. And this is a picture of an existing outdoor grow in the state. It's the one in Sheffield, one of the first ones. And it shows you the fencing system we're going to use. So we have 8-foot chain link fencing with a green screen. We'll also be putting plantings around the edge of this to help with the visual impact as well as with our pest control and the odor control also. The security plan ties right into our prevention of diversion to minors plan. So the security system includes adherence to identification and visitor badge requirements. So we make sure that there's never underage or unauthorized people on the premise. The security system and our metric seed to sale tracking program keeps our inventory very strict so that we know if there's any discrepancy in our product weight. And any instances of diversion will be immediately reported to the CCC and a responsible agent will be terminated. And all of our marketing is geared towards people who are 21 and over. And we'll go through some of the common nuisance fears that people have around cannabis and how we plan to mitigate them. So the first is traffic. As we talked about, there's no retail sales here. So traffic is limited to employees and infrequent, secure, unmarked deliveries. Studies have shown that legalized recreational cannabis drives property values up and will be in line with the character of the neighborhood, which is other cannabis operators, as well as industrial buildings. We talked about our energy efficiency being a major design consideration. So we'll work to reduce our our utility usage. And like Rob said, this facility will be completely renewable energy. So we'll be using solar for power with battery backup and generators. For backup. The odor is mitigated mostly by natural vegetation. So in our outdoor cycle, it's mostly contained to the flowering and the drying stages. But surrounding the field, there will be complementary plantings that also have odor. And we've talked to a consultant who has told us that it's usually only smell it for 200 to 500 feet. So we shouldn't have any problem with odor. Noise. there's not much noise that happens in an outdoor grow. Really, it's only the fans when we're drying. So in any event, we'll comply with the town and the state regulations regarding noise pollution. And the lighting for the outdoor field, like we talked about with the security system, it only goes on if a motion detector goes off. State law prohibits the use of pesticides, insecticides, and fungicides in cannabis plants. So we can use only methods that are deemed safe by the EPA, which are things like garlic and peppermint. That pesticide regulation is enforced by CCC inspections and our plant testing. So any non-compliance would be heavily sanctioned by the state and would have a huge impact on whether or not we can sell our crop and remain in business. So we have a lot of incentive to not use pesticides in the plants. Part of our pest control and the part of our pest control is using complementary plantings, lavender, mint, garlic, and we also use the wind and the rain like other agricultural crops to keep pests off. Our integrated pest management program follows the CCC guidance documents that have been listed, as well as our consultants' plans for pest management techniques. One of the CCC elements of our application is the positive impact plan. So a positive impact plan is designed to positively impact those disproportionately harmed by cannabis prohibition and enforcement. And the 5 groups that we are looking to benefit are residents of areas of disproportionate impact, certified economic empowerment priority recipients, social equity program participants, mass residents with past drug convictions, and mass residents with a parent or a spouse with a past drug conviction. So we've developed 2 programs to help with these 5 groups. The first is going to be an annual record sealing workshop in town. It'll teach people what records you can seal, how to seal them, and help people through the court process. And the second is to donate to a town identified charitable cause. So we're working with the town to choose an appropriate organization to donate to. So not only do we have our positive impact plan, but we have four separate areas where we're working to have a positive impact on the town of Orange. The first, in our host community agreement, we'll have a community impact fee, which is designed to pay for any potential negative impact to bring our impact up to 0. Then we have our positive impact plan that we talked about to have, and our diversity plan. The diversity plan will include a hiring goal so that we have our employees that belong to diverse groups. We'll also fund or host a training program to foster career advancement in both our employees and people looking to break into the cannabis industry. And the 4th area of benefit would be the Mend Foundation, which is a function of any ag tech. Every cultivator that rents from any ag tech will be donating to the Mend Foundation, which is developed to identify a town goal, some project that they're looking to fund or work on, and the company will donate time or funds to benefit that goal. And talk a little about the host community agreement. The HCA is the main contract between the cultivator and the town. It's one of the first things you have to do to start growing in any community in the state. It's valid for 5 years by statute. And the most common element is up to 3% of the annual gross sales are paid to the town as a community impact fee to offset any direct impact onto the town. And cultivators are considered low impact cannabis operators. So for CanGrow, there's steps to licensure. The first one is to host this outreach meeting. The second is to negotiate an HCA, which is in process. Then they'll be applying for a license with the Cannabis Control Commission, hopefully by the end of the month. And the goal is to plant the first crop in July of this year for a harvest this fall. So if you have any questions, you're free to email either Tony, the principal of CanGrow, or our moderator, David. And this presentation, the PowerPoint was posted to YouTube over the weekend, and this recording will be posted to YouTube as well. So do we have any questions or did anyone join?
Good evening. This is Antonio Alves, owner of CanGrow. I apologize. I was on since the beginning, but my phone was muted. My brother Alan had to tell me how to unmute it.
It's
I
okay.
thought that was you.
I think we covered everything. Correct, Tony?
Yeah, as far as I know, you guys did a good job.
Thank you.
Great. So David, do we have anything in the chat or anything come to
No,
you?
it doesn't look like we have anything in the chat. I'm gonna look at it again, but the chat appears to be empty. So if we don't have, we'll give it another moment or two. And if anybody in the audience has any questions they'd like to pose, we'd be glad to accept them.
All right. Right now, our audience is just our team. So any follow-up questions, feel free to email Tony or David through, through the
Yeah,
YouTube.
and through David will be able to forward any comments that you might have directed at either Kaylee or myself. So
Yes.
we're available all the time to answer any questions, and we will probably bore you to death if you ask us a question because we'll have long-winded answers. At least I will.
There's lots to talk about.
We're good. Thank you.
Great. Good. I'm not seeing anything coming up in the chat. So, all right, I think we're going to conclude the meeting then. And we'd like to thank everybody for attending.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you, David, very
Thank
much.
you very much, team. Have a good night.
Good night.